The first 2 years of a child's life, their brainwaves are basically in delta. So they're asleep with their eyes open. And as they begin to interact with their environment, their brainwaves change to theta. And theta is kind of like that twilight state where you have mystical experiences. But the first 6 years of a child's life, they're completely in their subconscious mind because that's what those brainwave patterns do. And as a result of it, all of their attention is on their inner world, feelings. So they have experiences that happen to them. And when the experience happens, they pay attention to their feelings. That's the primary modus for them. And then when they feel altered, they begin to look through their senses outside of them to see who or what caused it. And that event in and of itself is called an associative memory. So for the first 6, 7, 8, 9 years of our lives, as our brainwaves move into alpha and then ultimately into beta, when we get to beta, we're pretty much developed an analytical mind. And the analytical mind then serves as a filter or a barrier to separate the conscious mind from the subconscious mind. But that experience, though, is encoded in a memory system called an implicit memory system. It's stored in our subconscious. So then we don't know why we behave the way we do the rest of our lives because of events that have happened to us, but we're operating at a very fundamental level equal to the emotion that we've experienced. Another way to say that is, the moment you get in situations that bring up similar emotions that have branded you from the past, you return back to that 7-year-old child. And you behave in very, very, very limited ways because that's all you know, right? No one ever instructed you how to learn and to grow. So then people do all this psychoanalysis and they all these different types of therapies, and a lot of times it never gets to the core of it because they never get beyond their analytical mind to make those changes. Does that make sense? So there are techniques and ways to begin to lower the volume of those emotions that literally are stored in that system. And as you begin to lower the volume of those emotions within that system, you begin to restore the system, and the end product is called wisdom. Because a memory without the emotional charge is called wisdom, and that's how we grow and learn. Now, in the work that we've done over and over and over again, that most people, what they do is they have an emotional situation that happens in their life. Emotions are a record of the past. They analyze and think within that emotion, so they're thinking in the past. Are you with me? And when we studied their brain waves and we studied their brain functionally, when they're doing that, their brain always gets worse. Their brain gets more out of balance because it's the very hormones of stress that begin to super arouse or cause the brain to become so aroused, heightened. And when the brain is heightened, as I'll talk about this weekend, when you're facing a threat or something in your life that's potentially dangerous, the moment that happens, you begin to anchor consciousness in the body. You become very aware of your body because there's danger out there. You become super aware of objects and things in your environment because there's something dangerous out there. And you begin to obsess about time. And now when you do that, your brainwaves change and all of your attention goes on the outer world because that's where the danger is. Does that make sense? So 70% of the time, people stay in this state. That's a scientific fact. So then, when we've studied people in altered states, we saw that when they're analyzing their life, what do I do? Should I do this? Should I do that? Within the emotion of whatever it is that keeps them anchored to the past, they never really produce a change. But we've seen, without a doubt, over and over again, that when a person goes into an altered state, when they go within, and they become nobody, no one, no thing, no where, and no time. That's the moment they become pure consciousness. That's the moment they're no longer associating in this space and time, and they just walk through the door to the quantum field. Now, that means that in order for you to change your body, if you have a disease, you got to get beyond your body. In order for you to change some aspect of your personality, you got to get beyond the personality and its program. You got to get beyond the someone. If you are going to create something or change something in your life, you got to get beyond your association to known things and places in your life. And if you are going to create some novel event in some future time, you got to get beyond the anticipation of the future based on the past. And when people actually do that, when they are pure consciousness, that's the moment the brain literally can change in a matter of seconds, because now the operator is no longer immersed in matter. The operator now is beginning to manipulate matter from a different level of mind. And so people can heal their inner child by doing their inner child work, by overcoming emotions, and it requires a certain amount of consciousness and awareness. It requires a certain amount of metacognition or mindfulness to observe who they're being and begin to modify their behaviors and create new experiences and begin to overcome some of those emotions that keep them anchored to the past. But in order to do it in a very quick way, we've seen this over and over again, that people have to get beyond their body, their environment, and time. That's when they all of a sudden, consciousness becomes the epiphenomenon of matter, and a person can have an instantaneous experience that changes them because they're now already in the operating system. And I'll show you some brain scans that will probably floor most of you, because these are not nuns, these are not Buddhist monks, these are not academics, these are not Kabbalistic rabbis. These are common people just like you doing an uncommon thing. And the amount of energy that we're capturing in their brain we have never seen in a scientific experiment to date, which means that person is having a full-on inner experience that's transcendent of any past experience. They're having such a transcendent moment that the experience in that moment is reorganizing the circuitry in their brain, and the end product of the experience is called an emotion. They're feeling awe and wonder and love and joy, and they're signaling new genes in new ways, and that's the moment the past is literally washed out of the body. And we've seen tumors change, we've seen uterine fibroids go away, we've seen anxiety, depression, we've seen MS, lupus, we've seen it change in one instant when the person literally connects that deeply to the power within them. And that's the moment that the rewiring process can happen instantaneously. Now, that doesn't always happen that way. Other times, you got to stay at it. People who have done our work have done their meditations for 3 years. It took them 3 years to heal their condition. But you know what? They wanted that healing more than their sleep. They wanted that healing more than their social engagements. They wanted that healing more than their morning coffee. They wanted that more than anything else. And they wanted to connect with the divine every single day. And they wanted to drink from a deeper well. And they said, I don't want breakfast. I don't want coffee. I don't want my cell phone. I don't want my internet. I want you, power within me. We have a date. And I am going to commune with you. And I'm going to connect with you. And there's nothing else that matters more in this moment than that. And every day they overcame a little aspect of themselves, surrendered a piece of the limited self to join the greater self. And sure, it was hard. And sure, they had doubts. And sure, they were uncertain. And sure, they didn't feel like it certain days because they were facing a very serious condition. But every day they did it. And after a period of 3 years, and they overcame that disease or that condition or whatever, you ask that person, what about that condition or disease? They'll tell you, it was my greatest teacher. What about your father who was an alcoholic and was abusive? That was my greatest lesson. Because what if you think about your father now? Do you have any charge? No. And I'd say, well, now you have wisdom, because the memory without the emotional charge is wisdom. And if the soul's job is to embrace the unknown and create new experiences, if we're living by the same emotions, addicted to those emotions every day, how can the soul go on an adventure into the future if it is stuck emotionally to the past? So then positive thinking doesn't work if the person is literally anchored to the past emotionally. And so when people begin to open their hearts, and Greg will talk about this and I'll talk about it, and we've got enormous amount of data to show how powerful you are and how connected you are to the person on the other side of the room when you open your heart, how it affects that person. We've measured this. that you are bound in an invisible field beyond space and time, but not when you're feeling anxious, not when you're feeling angry, not when you're feeling frustrated, not when you're judgmental. You're not doing that. You're actually drawing from the field around your body and turning it into chemistry, and your field shrinks. But when you open your heart and you begin to breathe through that center and it's safe to open up, the field around your body can be 9 meters wide. That's science now. Now you're more energy and less matter. And that non-local phenomenon begins to have an effect on everybody that you've ever interacted with. So then, we know that when people begin to unmemorize those emotional states and they lower the volume to them, the emotion is what's signaling the gene in the wrong way. And if the emotion is a record of the past, the moment the person overcomes that emotion, they're free now to create a new future. And according to the religious model, they're born again in the same life.